consciousness organization. It's called Oneness University. All religions go there. There's no individual religion. In fact, I went there, and I became good friends with his father because I went there for an opening they had of a temple for all religions. There were Christians and Jews and Muslims, everybody there. And they expected maybe 200, 250,000 people to show up over 5 days, and 1 million people showed up the first morning. It was the most crazy thing I've ever seen. I brought a bunch of celebrities with me. They were freaking out when the whole place is falling apart. It was like a concert for God with no religion. And all these people there. It was really beautiful. So Krishna Ji grew up in that environment. That's what I'm trying to tell you. He's grown up in a pretty amazing environment. In that country, in India, his father is seen as an avatar. And so I went to go see Krishna Ji. We're dear friends a couple of years ago. And Krishna Ji said, hey, Tony, he said, you know how you teach? One of the most valuable things I've learned from you has been the idea that everything in life is either peak state or a lousy state. You're either energy rich or you're energy poor. Financially poor is not a problem if you're energy rich because you can make money. But if you're energy poor, it's worse than financially poor. Your life sucks. You won't have great relationships. You won't have great joy. You won't have great anything. He goes, that's been so valuable for me. He said, I got a question for you. What if we just changed those words from, peak state, lousy state, or energy rich, energy poor to beautiful states versus suffering? I said, so what do you mean? So beautiful states are any high energy state. So what would fit that category, a beautiful state? Love, joy, happiness, playfulness, boldness, courage, passion. You could come up with all these great things because when you're in those states, you automatically do the right thing. Who knows what I'm talking about here? Say I. So they're beautiful states by their definition. They make you feel good, you treat other people better, you perform at a higher level. And he said, and then the states that are low energy states, the states that are lousy states, let's call that suffering. I didn't like that because I'm an achiever. We don't even get fearful. We only get stressed, remember? We sure as hell don't suffer. That's for losers. But then I said, well, let me hear what you're saying. So you're saying a suffering state is any low energy state. So what would fill that? Frustration, anger, sadness, loneliness, depression, boredom, stress. How many follow those as states that would be suffering? Raise your hand, say I. He said, yeah. I said, well, if you asked me 2 years ago, do I suffer? I would have laughed at you. Suffer? I got the most incredible life. I have this mission that I've been on for 40 years of my life. I have the most incredible kids, incredible wife, incredible life. I got 31 companies. I got, more money than I can spend. I don't have to do anything and I get to do what I love. I'm physically fit and healthy. I am not suffering. And I would not be exaggerating, that would be my true feelings. But under his definition, I'd have to acknowledge that I was suffering because I did get pissed off and frustrated and stressed at times. Who can relate to some of those? Say I. My attitude before would have been, that's not suffering, that's just part of life. When you run 31 companies in different countries, and it just comes with the deal. But then I realized that is my survival software talking. My survival software wants to find what's wrong. It wants to be in that on guard state, which makes us all stressed, because that's what that brain will always do. That 2 million-year-old brain's always gonna do that. It's not gonna make you happy, that's your job. That's your consciousness job. And if you don't do it consciously, it'll take and run you. Who knows what I'm talking about here? Say I. Who's been stressed out about shit that never fucking happened? Raise your hand and say I. And some of you, your own life's so good that you think about other people's life that are fucked up to worry about that shit. So you always suffer. So what I realized was, I didn't like it, but I realized I do suffer. And so the first key to freedom, if you want a life that's extraordinary, is to make the decision that life is too short to fucking suffer. It's putting the line in the sand and saying, I don't give a damn what's going on, because there's always going to be something to suffer about, to be stressed about, if you look for it. Is it true? I discovered how cheap my happiness was. My happiness was cheap. What do I mean by that? All I need to do is carry this to lose my happiness. How? Because I have 31 companies, 1,200 employees. What are the chances that someone's fucking up right now? What do you think the chances are? On 3 continents, 1,200 employees, what are the chances that someone is not doing things the way I think it should be done? What are the chances? So 0 to 100%, what do you think? What percent? 100%. See, if your happiness requires that this woman who's your friend, or this man, or your coworker, or your husband, or your wife, or your mother, your father, or your children have to behave the way you think they should, or feel the way you hope they will, If your happiness requires them to behave and feel the way you want, what are your chances of staying happy for a lifetime? What are they? And yet we all do this. So if you and I want tonight to wake up and actually have this be a night that changed your life, then you're gonna have to decide that I am not gonna suffer again, and I'm not gonna settle for it, I'm not gonna make excuses for it, I'm gonna kill that little bastard when it happens. It's a little monster in your life. When's the best time to kill a monster? When it's a baby. You don't wanna wait till it's Godzilla taking your whole fucking life, eating the city. You wanna break the pattern when it's small. How many follow what I'm talking about here? Say I. So here are the keys to doing it if you want to capture it real fast. Who's up for this? Who believes life is too short to waste your time fucking suffering? Say I. But most of you suffer when life doesn't match how you think it should be. And if life was exactly how you wanted it to be every moment, you would be bored shitless. Is it true? We need challenges to feel alive. But then we have them, we get pissed off that we have them. Or pissed off with the people who are fucking things up or getting in the way. So I began to realize all I do is click this on, there's some text. I'm sure if I read one of them, there'll be one there I can get upset about, or at least lose my total joy about. And what I began to realize is that's never gonna happen, so now when I look at it, I'm entertained. Tell me, you lost $100,000, you can't find the cash. I'm fascinated. How did you pull that shit off? Whereas before I'd be, what the fuck? And then people didn't want to tell me anything. Now I'm entertained. And you know what? Sounds like I'm making it up, but I've really trained myself to be playful with it. And people, because I'm playful, they're not so scared, and then they'll tell me something, and we usually resolve it pretty quickly. But when you're suffering, you don't solve things quickly. I used to convince myself when I'm suffering, when I'm angry, my brain gets fast and I'm really good. That's true. When I'm not angry, my brain is fast and I don't have to suffer. So I decided I find out more answers in a beautiful state than I ever do in a suffering state. How many agree with me on that, by the way? Say I. So what do you gotta do? Real fast, because I'm almost out of time. Step one, you have to uncover what's your favorite flavor of suffering. What's your favorite flavor of suffering? There's so many different types of suffering. Which one or two do you tend to overuse? Right? So for some people here it was fear of failure. For somebody else it was fear they're not gonna have enough money. What's your favorite flavor? I'm sure you have more than one. Mine was pissed off and frustrated. Those are my two biggies, right? Stress would have been my third one. My top 2 or 3 flavors, I get pissed off, frustrated, and stressed because someone wasn't doing things at the level I thought they should, or they did it slower, or they didn't do it at all, or they fucked it up, and then I'd be all stressed. It didn't matter, I got all the money, all the love, all the joy, all the mission, all the children, all the anything I ever want. I'd be obsessed with the one fucking thing that doesn't match in that moment. That's, listen to me, what the mind will do to you if you let it. Or your spirit and soul can take over. And you can go, look at that funny little stressful thought going by. Look at the mind looking for what's worse. In fact, I'll prove it to you. Try something with me. I'm gonna give you a test. Sit up in your chair with energy, feeling strong. Shout the word yes and make it feel good. Go.
Yes!
Say it again.
Yes!
Say it again.
Yes!
One more time.
Yes!
Awesome. Now, take my test. Look around this room and find everything that's brown. Do not miss anything. Look behind you, look around you. I'm gonna give you a test. Look for everything that's brown. Brown clothing, brown colors, brown people, brown anything. Look around for brown, look for brown, look for brown. You didn't look around much.
What can I do?
Not just what you can see in front of you, look all around you. If you're only looking at what's in front of you, you're missing half of life. Close your eyes. Now with your eyes closed, tell me everything you just saw that was red.
Yep.
If you're seeing more brown than red in your mind right now, say yes. Yes. Say yes. Yes. Open your eyes and look for red now. Look for red anywhere you can find it. Look behind you, look beside you, look up around. Red, 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 red. Raise your hand if you saw a lot more red this time than the first time. Raise your hand, say I. Why did you see more red this time? That's right. Seek and ye shall. So if you're looking for something, you think somebody's a bad person or a mean person or unfair person, you'll find it even if it's not there. In fact, you saw colors that weren't even there just to feel successful. I promise you, I'll prove it to you. How many saw beige shit, called it brown just so you could count more things? How many saw burgundy, called it red just so you could feel successful? See, if you think somebody's mean, you'll find meanness in them even if it's not there. If you think there's something wrong with you, you'll find it even if it's not there. You'll shade it, you'll color it to feel successful. That's the power. So you have to know what your pattern is. How many know already 2 or 3 of your flavors of suffering that you overuse the most? Raise your hand if you know what they are. Say I. Yell them out loud. What are they? Tell me.
Stress.
How many got anger? Raise your hand. How many got frustration? Who's got stress? Who's got fear? Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of being alone, right? So all these different flavors. So once you know what your favorite flavors are, now you gotta notice where do they get triggered. So I'll tell you one of mine. It's ironic, coming to Australia. I love coming to Australia, no bullshit, but what I have not liked in the past, up until a couple years ago, was getting on Qantas Airlines for 14 hours to get my ass here. Because what happens is, I'm used to domestic flights and even European flights, we have internet. But Qantas, for some fucking reason, still doesn't have fucking internet like it's in the 1920s. And so I get on the plane and I'd be stressed out because I got 14 hours with no connection to Slack, email, text, God forgive me for social media and the other shit for 14 hours. So what do I know? I'm gonna be stuck for 14 hours, I'm gonna land in Australia, and what do you think's happening during those 14 hours? My inbox, my text, it's all getting bigger and bigger, and I'm gonna spend all my time when I land dealing with this shit, and it's stressing me out! And I would suffer. I would suffer as soon as I get on. I would suffer, why the fuck don't they have internet here? What is the matter with Qantas Airlines? I would go through all these stories in my head and create such stress. For such a smart person, it's pretty dumb. And then one day, I asked myself, what's stressful about flying? I mean, have you ever heard somebody talk about how stressful it is? Oh my God, I had the most stressful flight. Oh my, what happened? They made us sit on the runway for 30 minutes without moving. We were stuck there for 30 minutes. Can you imagine the agony we went through? Yes, after that, did you fly through the fucking sky like a bird? You didn't have to use your fucking arms. Did you watch a movie while you flew? Birds can't do that shit. Did you take a shit while you flew? Come on. And you call that stress? What's wrong with us? And now I'm fortunate enough to have my own private jet so I can fly wherever I want now. But before I got my jet, fortunately, I solved this problem. Maybe that's why I finally got my jet. And I got on Qantas one time about 3 years ago, I'll never forget. I'm sitting there, I'm about to get stressed. I'm anticipating 14 hours of fucking being stuck with no movement, no access. And all of a sudden they announce, ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain. I'm proud to share with you that here at Qantas Airlines, we have the newest technology. And tonight, for the first night, we have internet! Make the sound that was on that plane. Go ahead, make the sound that was on that. People started cheering, clapping. People stood up and cheered. I wanted to stand up and cheer, but I didn't want to be noticed I was there. So I sat in my chair and cheered like this, right? I was so excited. I jumped on, started doing all this shit. And in 9 minutes, what do you think happened? After 9 minutes, what do you think happened? The internet crashed. And when did it get going again? Fucking never. They still don't have fucking internet on Qantas. What the fuck is the matter with these people? And by the way, what did people do after 9 minutes of internet? They're like, this is bullshit. What the fuck is wrong with these people? What the? 9 minutes earlier, it was a miracle. Now it's already an expectation. Write this down. Trade your expectations for appreciation and your whole life will change in that moment. I'll say it again. Trade your expectations for appreciation and your whole life will change in that moment. What makes us miserable, what makes us suffer, is the failure to appreciate. In fact, let me give you the formula right now. If you want to suffer, or if you're suffering and you want to know why, it comes in 3 phrases. Loss, less, never. Write them down. 3 triggers for suffering. Loss, less, and never. All it takes for you to go from joyous and happy and grateful and alive to pissed off or sad or angry or scared or lonely or depressed or bored is for you to see something that someone else did or failed to do or someone else said Or they should have said and they failed to say, and if you think it led to a loss of time or money or respect or love or opportunity, you will suffer. Does that make sense? The illusion of loss. I call it the illusion of loss because you thought we just lost those lights, but they're gonna come right the fuck back on. So, but when we, by the way, it can be other people that trigger the sense of loss, or it can be ourselves. Can we say to ourselves, fuck, I did this, or I didn't do what I was supposed to do, or I said this, or I shouldn't have said that, and because I did, I've lost opportunity, love, joy, money, something. Yes or no? So whether it's someone else or you, it's the illusion of loss that creates suffering. What else can it be? Less. Doesn't have to be lost. If you think because of what she said or did or failed to say or failed to do, or because of something I said or did or failed to say or do, that now we have less joy, less love, less opportunity, less time, you'll suffer. Because that's what the mind does, the mind. Not you, the mind. How many get the distinction here? Raise your hand if you got it. Say I. And the worst one is never. If you think because of what John did, or Mary did, or didn't do, or said or didn't say, or something you did or didn't do, or said or didn't say, and as a result, we'll never have that love again, we'll never have that opportunity, we'll never make that money, then the suffering goes to the roof, because never is ongoing suffering. How many follow this? Raise your hand. In fact, let me give you the secret to suffering. To suffer, you have to obsess over some loss less never in you. Let me explain. Whenever we suffer, it's because we're obsessed with ourselves. I'll talk to a mother, she said, no, it's not about me. I'm really upset, I'm stressed out, I'm worried. I feel bad because my children are doing so badly in school. She is not suffering over her children, she's suffering because she feels she failed her children. Raise your hand if you follow that. Whenever we obsess on ourselves, our world gets small. It becomes all about me, and what makes us happy is we. What makes us happy is growing and giving. And we're focused on ourselves, we're not growing, and we're not giving. It's that simple. So how do you get out of suffering? Because by the way, we had this whole conversation about suffering, and my bet is you're gonna go home, or you're gonna be driving home, and something's gonna cause you to suffer. Now, you may not call it suffering because you're an achiever. You'll just call it stress, or traffic, or frustration, or whatever, but it'll be right there for you. But if you're smart tonight, you can catch it and start to change your whole life. Because what makes your life change is not that you never suffer, it's you catch it, and when it happens, you eliminate it. You break the pattern. See, I have a friend that became very wealthy, grew up very poor like I did. We became good friends early in our lives, and we're both struggling. We're both very successful in business and financial terms and life terms, happiness terms. And one of his goals growing up, his parents were always broke. He grew up in this little house. His parents lived there for 40 years and never moved. And it was an ugly, torn up, run down place. And his goal was to have his parents have this incredible lifestyle, to do well enough in business that he could buy them a home. And he did, but he didn't tell them. He wanted it to be a surprise. So at Christmas, he sent them to Hawaii, to the islands for a week as a gift. But his goal was not only to give them a Hawaiian gift, but while they're gone, to literally empty the home they lived in for 40 years and move everything into the new home for them, so when they come home for Christmas, it would be in this new magnificent home on the water. Well, he decides at the last minute he's gonna hire a firm to do this, and he goes in his parents' home, and people collect a lot of shit over 40 years. And he thought, if the movers break anything, it'll ruin the whole thing. So he called his sister and said, let's you and I wrap everything up ourselves by hand. Let's put it on a truck ourselves, because if we hire someone else that gets broke, we'll never hear the end of it. It'll kill the deal. And that's one of the ways you can support, because I know you don't have money to do it, but you and I want the gift to be from both of us. And I'm not gonna tell him financially it's only for me, it'll be from both of us to his sister. So she said, that would be beautiful. So they spend a weekend wrapping everything and then loading in this giant U-Haul truck that he rented. And he's never driven a truck like this before. And then it starts to snow, and they're running out of time because it all took longer than they thought. And so now he's freaking out. The parents are gonna show up in the morning. They can't make 2 trips. So he goes and gets an extension U-Haul to attach to the truck, and he wires it all up, and he's not good at wiring, that's not his skill set. So they load it all, it's snowing, and then his brain goes, holy shit, if I wire that ineffectively, and I put on the brakes on the truck, and the lights don't go back to the extension truck, there'll be no lights and someone ran in the back of me. So being smart, he says to his sister, go to that back of the U-Haul there, the extension truck, I'm gonna push on the brakes and let me know if it's working or not. So he says, okay, I'm pushing on the brakes. And she goes, it's working, it's working, it's working, it's working. He goes, okay, now I'm gonna do the turn signals. She goes, it's working, now it's not, it's working, now it's not, it's working, now it's not. He gets out of the truck, he runs back to her and says, what the fuck is the matter with you? He says, that's how you know it's working when it's not. And that's how you're gonna know after tonight. If you catch yourself suffering, it's working. Don't beat yourself up because you catch yourself suffering. It's natural, it's what the mind will do if you don't pay attention, if you don't run it. When you do is you notice it's suffering, you go, oh, it's suffering. Now how do I get myself out of lost never? I'm gonna give you a technique, but at the basic level, you're not gonna run from suffering to enjoyment. It's too big a jump. So what I go is from suffering to appreciation. Because there's always something to appreciate. You can appreciate this moment, your breath, your health, your child, the sun, that you live in Sydney, Australia, or wherever you live here in Australia. Whatever it is, if you focus on something to appreciate, it instantly changes the suffering into joy. Because remember, whatever you focus on, you feel. So you focus on what's missing and you can't control, you're gonna suffer. If you focus on what you have and how beautiful it is and what you're grateful for, what you appreciate, suffering's gone. How fast, my friends, do you think it goes? How fast? And if you change your body and your focus, it goes away instantly. So all you gotta do is train yourself to snap out of it, snap out of it, snap out of it, and pretty soon you'll get good at it. It's not that I'm so good, it's just that I set a game for myself. Here was the game. I said, I'm gonna have a 90-second rule. My 90-second rule is when I start to feel suffering, how do you know you're suffering? Tension. As soon as you feel tension in your body, you're starting to suffer. There's some form of stress. So what I do when I start to do that is I breathe slowly and fully. What does that do? Changes your state, change your physiology and your state. I just breathe nice and slow, and then I see the thought that I'm stressed about. I see it over there, and I see it as the mind. I go, look at that stressful thought. This will never work, it'll fall apart, we'll never get there, it's all fucked up. What a funny little thought that is. And then as I'm breathing slowly, I think, what can I appreciate? Wow, I'm here with you. Wow, my body's doing this. Wow, we're living at this time in history. Wow, and I just think of things to appreciate, and what happens is I'm no longer stuck inside myself with lost, less, never. It's not lost, less, never when you're noticing, appreciating, and grateful. And once I appreciate, then I enjoy, and once I enjoy, I love. And to me, love is an act. I do something loving, I share something loving, because when you're doing that, there is no suffering. So you get out of lost, less, never by appreciating, enjoying, learning and growing, loving or being grateful. Any one of those three, but I always start with appreciation because it's so easy to be able to do. And if you train yourself to do this, and by the way, I call it the 90-second rule. It works great for little things, but there are a few big things where I should have made it for like the 90-hour rule. You know, maybe 90 minutes, not 90 seconds. But the more you do something, the better you get. And I can tell you today, crazy shit happens now, and I don't suffer. If I do, maybe it goes 5 minutes on something horrible, whereas it would have been 5 days before. And all it is practice and skill and doing it more and more. Immersion. And so I've only got 3 hours with you here, so we haven't had much immersion on this, but what I try to do first before I taught you this is, I showed you how to change any state. How fast can you change? Do it right now, in your chair. Snap into a peak state in your chair. Go for it, snap into a peak state. Come on! Come on! While you're doing it. So, if you're gonna do this, who here has decided tonight you're gonna make this decision? Not for me, I'm nobody. But for your own life, because by the way, I can't control. This is, you're not gonna suffer. You're gonna live in a beautiful state every day, no matter what. Even if it rains on your parade, even if, I'll sound gross, it shits on your parade. If the only time you're happy is when things go your way, that's not, there's no mastery in that. The secret is to be able to do it when it doesn't go your way. And I can tell you, the minute you start practicing this, you'll be good at it and then you'll be challenged. And for me, I'm telling you, it was the most valuable thing is because 2 years ago I made this choice. I made this decision. Now the way I made it, the way I encourage you to make it, is if you're really gonna do this, I have no part of it, it's you. You need to write a letter to yourself why you're doing this, why you're no longer gonna suffer, why you know suffering will start to happen, and why you're gonna end it as it arises. Why you're not gonna obsess about yourself. Why are you gonna do this? Why is it a must for you? How will it change your life if there was no suffering? Think about it. If all the shit that makes you crazy, like worrying do I have enough money or will the business make it, if you just didn't entertain those thoughts or you thought, isn't that funny? Everybody thinks those stupid thoughts. That's not me, that's the mine. What can I appreciate right now in my business, in my life, in myself, in the people around me, in my employees? What can I love? What can I give? What can I learn? How fast can you change, my friends? How fast? Or you could just make a radical change in your what? Physiology. If you guys come to Unleash the Power Within, the seminar, it's part of that, or the business seminar, we're gonna be doing this day and night and day till it's automatically in you. The first night, at the Unleash the Power Within, we do the fire walk. And the purpose of the fire walk, I used to do skydiving, but it's hard to get 7,000 people in Sydney in the middle of the night jumping out of a plane, so we use the fire walk. But all it is you get in front of that 2,000 degree burning hot fire, and you'll have what we call a state change. And then you're gonna have to change from being fearful to get yourself to take action. So it's not about fire walking, it's about whatever stops you in life. And once you can get yourself to do that, what else can you get yourself to do? Anything. It's one thing to know that. You can read a book. You can read a book about swimming, or you can go fucking learn how to swim. The book's nice. You come spend the time with me, you'll be swimming. Whether it be the business side or personal side or both. But what I want you to do is write a letter to yourself, number one. Who's gonna do this? Awesome. And then write a second letter, and you can copy that letter and make a small change to it. You can even borrow from the first letter, so it doesn't have to be a whole new thing. But you should write 2 more letters after that to 2 people you respect and tell them the decision you've made not to suffer anymore. And how you used to obsess about things, you used to believe your thoughts, and what you've decided to do and why. What it used to cost you to suffer, how much more free you are when you don't suffer. And you tell them, I'm telling you this because I respect you and I'm declaring to you that of course the mind will try to suffer, but I'm gonna catch it. If you see me still suffering, please come to remind me that I made this commitment. And you can tell them how, say don't make me wrong. Just if you would, say, you feel like you're really stressed about that, would you rather be in a beautiful state? And that'll be my own reminder. That way they don't treat you in a weird way. And the value of telling 2 people you respect is leverage to follow through, but it's also a gift you could be giving them because you'll plant a seed in their own mind. So you could not only change your life, you could change somebody else's life as well, which would be pretty cool. Who's up for doing this? Now, you will be up for doing it, but you won't do it unless you do it immediately, and I'm out of time. I'd normally have you do it while we're here, so I'd really encourage you either stay in your seat, or when you leave, go sit down somewhere and do it right away while it's fresh. If you wait till tomorrow, it'll be too late. Because your life will interrupt your pattern. Right now, you know what to do. And the other thing is, and I'll just tell you what I taught my own children. My own children come to me, and my daughter at one point wanted to be a dancer, and it's a long story, she became a TV star in the United States and everything else, but the reason was, she was going to school, and I came to her and I said, honey, how are you getting closer to your goal by doing this? She goes, you told me to go to college. I said, yes, but you said you want to be a dancer. There's a life on a dancer. Beyond a certain time, you can't do it. And I said, she goes, but I'm best. I said, yeah, you're the best in your school, but the best are in Broadway. And if you're gonna have this be your profession, you need to do what I teach. You need to go full immersion learning, and you go get a job working against the best. That's how you're gonna grow. She goes, yeah, I wanna do that, probably when I get out of school. And I said, honey, I think a lot of what you've seen in my life, you think I'm brilliant, and I am. I'm your father. But what makes me most brilliant is I never let an opportunity slip through my fingers. My mindset is really simple. I learned this early on. I get excited about something, I'd be committed to something, and then I'd walk away and I'm in a certain state, and something interrupts my state, email, calls, meetings, whatever, and then I lose my momentum. And when you lose momentum, now you're starting over, and you don't usually follow through. I said, so here's what I do. I never leave the sight of setting a goal or making a decision without doing something in that moment that commits me to follow through later on. So I'd pick up my phone and I'd schedule a meeting right now, or I'd sign that person up to be my coach, or I enroll in a class, or I call the person and lock down how I'm gonna get that product or service that I need to go to the next level. But I do something while I'm still in what? In a peak what?
State.
Peak what?
State.
State. Because if you don't do that, you'll drop through. How many follow this? So, and the other thing I tell people is, like, how many feel like you got a lot out of this last couple hours here for your life? No question about it. Say aye. This benefit you're getting right now did not happen when you thought about this coming. Thinking about it, it's a dream. Talk about it, it's exciting. Envision it, it's possible. Plan it, it's more likely. Schedule it, it's fucking real. This became real when you enrolled and scheduled. True or false? And there are lots of people that need to be here that aren't here. You may even know somebody, and it's because they didn't they didn't schedule. They thought about it, they considered it, they got distracted. So I'm telling you for two reasons. Number one, do this while you're in state, tonight at the very latest. For you don't have to, but if you want results, that's what it'll take. Who's gonna do it? Say aye. And two, if you want to continue your education, who here wants to take their business to the next level, is interested in learning the business side of this, business mastery? Raise your hand if you're committed to that. If you are, make sure you see them before you leave and get yourself enrolled. If you're looking to change your personal life, go there. Or if you're not gonna do it with me, go sign up for something because you need to keep making progress. You got